liquid cleaner.
Mr. Clean gets rid of dirt and grime and grease in just a minute.
Mr. Clean will clean your whole house and everything that's in it.
Floors, doors, walls, halls, white sidewall, tires, and old golf balls.
Sinks, stoves, bathtubs he'll do. He'll even help clean laundry too.
Mr. Clean gets rid of dirt and grime and grease in just a minute.
Mr. Clean will clean your whole house and everything that's in it. Can he clean a kitchen sink?
Quicker than a wink.
Can he clean a window sash?
Faster than a flash.
Can he clean a dirty mirror?
He'll make it bright and clearer.
Can he clean a diamond ring?
Mr. Clean cleans anything.
Mr. Clean gets rid of dirt and grime and grease in just a minute.
Mr. Clean will clean your whole house and everything that's in it. Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Bet you never thought you'd connect anything like that with a sermon. I thought that was a lot of fun, and I'd like to just take a couple minutes to unpack that a little bit, because I think it has something to do with the lesson that Kay just read. Thank you, Kay, wherever you are, by the way. There she is. Okay. So Mr. Clean's going to make your life easier and better, right? And by the way, have you seen the new Mr. Clean commercials, the one with the Super Bowl commercial? I'd love to show up, but I'm not going to. Go on YouTube and take a look. It's just choice. Mr. Clean has become sultry, okay? Yeah. So he's going to make your life clean. He's going to make your life easier and better, because there is not a job that he can't tackle. The entire house, whatever it is, he's going to make it sparkle and shine. And when you're all done, when he's all done, I should say, see how easy it just wipes away? When he's all done, then you can rest secure that your house is going to be just crystal clean. All right? Even your diamond ring. Right? I just find that so interesting, because, there have been kind of an evolution that's been taking place since that commercial took place in our society. But the commercials are kind of a mirror of that. So much so that there's this idea out there that in order to satisfy yourself, in order to fill yourself up, there are things out there that you can purchase that will fill your soul, literally fill your soul. So back to the commercials, okay? So, and I want to read these because I've got to get this right, okay? There is dish detergent that will have you love doing the dishes. There is toothpaste, this one's really choice, that lets you reveal your playful side, amplify your creative side, and share your sophisticated side. Don't you want that toothpaste? My goodness. Okay, there are luxury cars that once you sit behind the wheel, it's so relaxing that you will wonder where all your anxiety went. It just disappears into thin air. There are shoes that will let you find your greatness. And of course, there is financial planning that will make all of your dreams come true. And that's just a sample. By the way, I want you to know that I sacrificed great things for this sermon. Normally, when the commercials come on, I head to the refrigerator for another Diet Coke. I watched a pile of commercials last night, more than you can possibly imagine, and it was painful, but I did it just for you, okay? Excuse me. But, there's a, how do I want to say this? All of those things are based on a false premise, which makes the commercials a lie. The premise is this, that there are holes in your soul that can only be filled by things that you can obtain for yourself. The more things you have, the more your soul is going to be filled. All right? And we see that all the time in the commercials, right? We believe that ourselves with all of our heart and soul. But it's a false premise. It's not what life is based on. It can't be. Because, you know how it works. You think that's going to do it. I've said this before in the sermon. You think that's going to do it, so you go get that. And it does it for a while. Then you're over here because that's going to do it, and you get that. And you're just wandering from thing to thing to thing. Nothing satisfies your soul. Not one thing can do that. I didn't say one thing, one item. There's nothing that can do that at all. You all know the first commandment? I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods before me. Say it with me. I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods before me. Okay, that commandment is there for a reason. And the reason is not that God is just desirous of your undivided attention. The reason that commandment is there, and it's the first commandment, is because God knows that when we invest ourselves in false gods, and by the way, a false god is anyone or anything that promises to fill your life but can't do it. It's a false promise. He knows that if you invest your life in that, you're just going to hurt yourself. There is no way in the world. Well, thank you, Peter. My goodness. Thank you. You know, I'm going to talk about this in a few minutes because this is where I'm going with the sermon too. That's really touching, isn't it? No one thing that can do it. And there is no way that you can fill your soul. There is a better way. Let's stop and sing. So today's lesson is a familiar lesson. It's really quite literally at the center of Mark's gospel. It's in chapter 8 out of 16 chapters. But more than that, it's also sort of the center of the story of Jesus. Because up until this point, Jesus has been out there healing people who are sick and feeding people who are hungry and casting out demons of those who are possessed with things that run them down. That's what he's been doing so far. But now with this, things change because he starts heading towards Jerusalem and he starts heading towards the cross. So the story goes. Jesus has his disciples around him and he says, who do people say that I am? And of course, Peter speaks for everybody. He says, and he makes the list. He says, well, some are calling you John the Baptist back from the dead. Some are calling you Elijah. And some think that you are one of the prophets from old. And then, when asked, Peter gives the correct answer. He says, you are the Christ. And as I told the group on Wednesday night, Christ is not Jesus' last name. Christ is a title. It literally means king, anointed one. You are the king. And then Jesus begins to unpack that a bit. He starts telling them what it means to be the king. That he's going to suffer at the hands of sinful people, that he's going to die, and that he's going to be rejected by the religious leaders. All of that. He is going to give himself in unconditional love. Give up everything, deny himself, even his life, so that we might live. And as he does that, Jesus ends up drawing the whole world to himself. They are drawn to him because they know that this is someone who is very different than the rest of the world. The rest of the world wants something from you. Jesus gives something to you. Something precious, something special. He gives you life. He connects you with each other, just as he is connected with you. And in those connections, the deepest of things happens to your soul. Your soul is filled in ways that nothing else in the world can possibly even begin to manage. It's impossible. Jesus comes. He gives his life. I'm going to suffer at the hands of sinners. I'm going to be rejected by the church leaders. And I'm going to be killed, and only after 3 days will I rise. And of course, the disciples, they're not on board with this. They back then they did not have the advertising industry to whisper in their ears, but they're still children of this world, right? And they believe what we believe, what we've been told that is true, that you fill yourself, that the more you have, the fuller you are inside. Right? And so when it comes to Jesus and they hear the word king, they're thinking, okay, Jesus, you got to build yourself up. You are going to amass wealth and power. You're going to gather a military around you. You are going to become strong in the ways of the world so that you can conquer and you can be our king. That's what they're thinking. That's why Peter rebukes him. Because what Jesus is telling them about sacrifice, about denial, about giving himself in love, it just isn't computing for them. It just doesn't make sense. It's counterintuitive to everything that they know in this world and everything they've learned about this world. And so Jesus does this. And I can't remember where I was going with this. That's all right. Jesus comes and he gives his life. And he draws the world to him. And that fills in ways that no one else can possibly know or understand. Let's sing. So if you read past this just a little bit to the end of chapter 8, you're going to find that this isn't just about Jesus giving of himself, but as he gives of himself, he says, if you're going to follow me, you're going to be denying yourself. You're going to take up your cross, and you're going to follow me. You're going to sacrifice for the benefit of others. That's what it means to be his disciple. So you see, when Jesus asks, who do you say that I am? What he's also asking is, if you're a follower of me, who are you? Are you one who fills yourself up? Or are you one who denies yourself for the sake of others? Now that whole business of denial, I think we have this, how do I want to say this, kind of a thin understanding of what that means. especially here during Lent, because I know some people, they give up chocolate for Lent for 6 weeks, and whatever it happens to be. And it reminds me of an old joke. If you've heard it, I apologize. There is this guy's in this neighborhood, and it's during Lent, and it's every Friday night. He puts a steak on the grill. And, I mean, the aroma just spreads out all over the neighborhood, including around his Catholic friends. And they're smelling this, and it's just absolutely driving them nuts. And so they have this idea. They're going to get together with him and call in the priest and turn him into a Catholic. And so, have you heard this story before? Oh, good. I'm glad. I never know where I tell stories. And so they get the priest. The guy agrees to it. And the priest comes and says, "You were once a Lutheran, you were always a Lutheran, and now you're a Catholic." And so, great. And so Friday rolls around, and here comes the steak smell again. And, I mean, so they look over the fence, and they see him standing over the grill, and he says, "You were once a steer, you were always a steer, now you're a fish." But, you know, I'd much rather be Lutheran, actually. But we think of denial as that, as just sort of giving something up. And I think it's really thin, because I think denial connects directly to what Jesus is talking about here. He's not talking about giving stuff up for yourself. He's talking about a whole new way of life, where as you stop buying in to the lies of the world, that the more you fill yourself with things, and the more you fill yourself up, and the more you make yourself great, the more satisfied with life you're going to become. Instead of doing that, give it up. Give of yourself. And you will find an abundance that you never dreamed possible. That's what Peter just did. He brought a thirsty man a cold cup of water. And I will tell you that it made me feel good. It also made Peter feel good. It filled him up. I'm going to take a drink, Peter. As some of you know, I was on vacation last week, and the vacation was coming to a close. I was down in Florida, and I had a couple of hours before I had to be at the airport, and I realized that I had not done my duty that I always do when I go to Florida, and that would be to go to the Waffle House and get 2 eggs over easy and grits. Have you ever been to the Waffle House? I don't know why they're not up here, because they're just amazing. And so I go in there, and I get my grits and I get my eggs. I mix the eggs and the grits, because that's how my uncle taught me to do it. He's from the South. And you put a little butter, put a lot of butter on it, and you put on just enough salt to make your cardiologist nervous, and you start eating. And I did this, and this kid's serving me. He's, I think, if I remember right, I think he had braces, and we got into conversation, and he was bright, and he was articulate. And so I asked him, "So are you in college?" He said, "No, I'm a junior in high school, but I'm also in college." He said, I'm going to the community college, and by the time I graduate, I'm going to have my AA degree as well, graduate from high school. And he was just so engaging. And here he was, I mean, on Sunday afternoon, he could have been at home, squirreled away in his room playing video games. And instead, he's doing this. And you know, the whole conversation just moved me. And I'm not telling you this because I'm great, I'm telling you this because of what it did to me. That when I went to go pay the bill, I put the money down for the bill, and I slipped a $50 bill underneath. And he said, "Don't you want your change?" I said, "No, that's for you. Just go work yourself to death and become the best person you can possibly be." And as I'm walking out the door, he said, "God bless you." Once again, I'm not telling you this because I'm a great guy. I'm telling you this because what happens when you empty yourself is that you're connected with the people that you've emptied towards, that you've given yourself for. I could have used that $50 in a lot of different ways. Most of them probably not to my benefit. But this was way more valuable. And here I am, a week later, still thinking about a kid behind a lunch counter with braces. And he may be thinking about me as well. It probably was going to make a lot of difference to $50 to him. Made a big difference to me. Jesus said, if you're going to be my disciple, you need to deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. It's not about turning steers into fish. It's not about denying yourself of something you enjoy for a few weeks. It's about changing the way you see your world and your place in this world. It's about giving. Because there is a paradox that the disciples couldn't see, and I'm guessing that before this sermon most of you couldn't see as well. The more you get, the paradox is this, the more you get, the more you receive. The more you sacrifice the things that you believed were important, the more you have. The more you befriend people, the more friends you accumulate. And the more you love, the more you are loved. And for that we give God thanks and praise.